Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hopefully, everybody had a great Thanksgiving. So, I actually was going to do a little pre Thanksgiving special, maybe even go live Thanksgiving Day and kind of do like best of Thanksgiving or, Thanksgiving memories type video or something. But I don't know, man. I don't exactly have the fondest Thanksgiving memories. And it's not even as simple as, hey, Thanksgiving days suck for me or were horrible or anything like that. It's not as simple as that. Like, I just don't have, like, those type of recollections. Thanksgiving days for me were, like, very simple. Like, I was very, I don't know, I don't want to say sheltered. Like, when I think of people that are sheltered, I think of, like, parents that, like, keep them away from social life and society and stuff. Um, you guys know how I was raised, man. Like, we weren't raised on like Sesame Street stuff like that. No, we're 2, 3 years old watching freaking horror shows, watching Freddy Krueger and Nightmare and Halloween and stuff like that, right? So, we were exposed to the most ludicrous stuff out there. So no, we were not sheltered by any means of the imagination. But no, for me, I had my little back room, and my back room, I just sat there and I had my TV and everything, and I was good. Had my TV, I had all my blank VHS tapes. Anytime a new movie or TV show came on, I sat there and I taped it and had my little collection of VHSs, and I was happy. That brought me joy, and that was exciting. Anytime we had Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, I'd go out to the dining room, make myself a plate, go back to my room, watch my shows or movies or whatever. That was my happiness. So, but anytime I tried to like sit down like Thanksgiving dinners and stuff, right? The discussion around the table wasn't exactly the most joyous occasions. So I kind of thought about those little bit of details I had, and I'm like, you know what? It's holidays, man. I don't want to bring people's mood down. It's supposed to be a joyful occasion. So I decided, you know what? No, forget that. I don't want to make those type of videos. Mm-mm. Nah, man. But I'm home. My wife and I, we celebrate our holidays together. We don't travel, and our her father is in Indianapolis, and my closest family is in Chicago. So actually, Indiana is like right on the border of Kentucky. Like, we're probably from Kentucky, based on where we are. We could probably cross over Indiana, get on the highway, probably cross over into Indiana within like 10, 15 minutes. So, like, Louisville is like literally right on the border of Indiana. So, Indianapolis is probably like an hour and a half away. So, it's not far, but no, we don't travel. But I was reading, not on my channel, but on another video I was watching. One of my longtime viewers, Mr. Persky, he left a little comment, and he said something about how one of the things that he does every year during Thanksgiving is go back and watch old Survivor series. And I'm like, I don't have any of those type of traditions, but man, stuff like that seems like so much fun. Having a group of friends or family gather around and have these type of traditions that even wrestling, it doesn't have to be wrestling. I mean, I have basically established a sort of wrestling channel of sorts. So it would be nice if it was wrestling related, but again, it doesn't have to be. But we don't have really any traditions, not really. But something like that would be really nice. But I don't know if I want to watch like the same thing over and over again. Like Christmas every year, I guess putting on A Christmas Story, because on TNT that darn movie played literally 24 hours a day. So, I mean, that was very common, I guess. So I guess watching Christmas Story was maybe a tradition of sorts. While my mom was in the kitchen cooking all day, that movie just played on nonstop. We really didn't watch it. It was just kind of background noise, I guess. But I mean, was that really tradition? Not really. Um, yeah. So, uh, update. You guys know the Hasbro review videos has been some of my most enjoyable videos I enjoyed making. I did film, so I posted series 2 on Tuesday. Wednesday evening I did film series 3. In all honesty, I keep thinking that these videos are going to go about an hour 10 minutes tops. That last video ran even longer than the second series, and I'm like, man, this has got to be, this is crazy. But you're looking at about an hour 34 minutes, almost an hour 35 minutes for series 3. Insanity. I'm sorry. I know that there are actually viewers out there who actually sit there and watch it like a whole hour and a half movie, and I thank you. But it's fun. One thing I kind of regret, post making that video, is that in this series 3, I actually did kind of turn it more into a more value based video, meaning I did kind of look at it more. I did spend a lot more time talking about the value of the figures than anything else, because in series 3 I didn't actually have any of those figures from childhood, so I didn't have any history with the figures, so I had to actually talk more about other things since I didn't have playability from childhood to talk about, if that makes sense. Well, guys, today it is a return to the WWF LJN tournament, and we are currently in round 3, of course, and this is part 7. So, with 4 videos, including today, remaining in the 3rd round, let's see what the first video brings, or the 7th video brings. Matchup number 1 is going to feature Volume 2. That is a good one. Volume 2, Ultimate Warrior takes on Referee Stud. Random Treasures, Mr. T will take on Jim Neidhart, Junkyard Dog. Brian Pillman will square off against Junkyard Dog. And last matchup, will pit Crush against Ultimate Warrior Hogan Style. So this is actually a pretty heavy Ram Treasures video, and of course I'm knocking over my tags because every time I open my mouth, these tags fly. Crazy. I'm going to go ahead, pull these figures, and we will begin in split section. Alright. So, the first matchup we are going to witness is going to feature Big John Studd, referee, as he does battle against the Ultimate Warrior, Volume 2. And so, this figure is... Alright, so this is a rubber figure. I don't know why, every time I look at this figure, I kind of feel like it's a resin piece, but no, it does actually move, so it is actually rubber. But when you look at it, whoever customized the figure, they actually did chop off the legs of Big John Studd, right? And they put them on the bottom of Hillbilly Jim. I think I talked about this in the past, where I kind of looked at a Facebook page. I really wish I saved it. Now, generally, somebody, when they customize Hillbilly Jim, and I hate this, I've said it before, with customs, if a figure is beyond repair, and the best way to save that figure essentially is to cut it up and utilize it for other figures to create something different and unique, I'm okay with that. But there have been times where I've seen people take like a mint or near mint figure and cut it up and customize it, either cut it up for pieces or even just give it a brand new repaint. I'm like, wasteful. There are collectors out there who would love to have that figure. Once these figures are gone, they're gone. And it's it's like I said, these are they're wasteful, and I don't want to see that happen. Yes, you can have people out there make new molds. I got it. But nothing beats originality. There was a guy out there who actually took Hillbilly Jim, and this is the first time I've ever seen somebody do this. They weren't just taking Hillbilly Jim and like taking the head and like using it for like Jimmy Garvin, or taking a Hillbilly Jim and like using it for like a Bruiser Brody or something. No, they're like taking Hillbilly Jim and putting the head on like all of these different body types and actually making like making like actual Hillbilly Jim characters. And I'm like, wow. I mean, I can understand turning Hillbilly Jim into like different characters, but actually taking different figures and turning it into Hillbilly Jim, that was weird. And they look spectacular. I looked at that, I'm like, man, I want that. The original Big John stud figure means so much to me. And a lot of that has to deal with the bending of the knee, and what I always talk about with the body slam pose, right? This looks spectacular. This arguably could be one of the best LJN figures. I don't know if this is necessarily going to be one of those figures that wins my tournament. I don't even know if this figure is necessarily going to make it to my semifinals. Is he a round 4 figure? Absolutely. Is he a round 5 figure? Is he someone that could be in the last, I don't know, what's round 5? Like the last 16 or last 8 figures, last 9 figures, something like that? So I'm going to have more than 4 figures in the semifinals. I'm going to have 5 figures in the semifinals. So I would estimate that I would probably have at least 9 figures in round 5. So I think it could technically be a round 5 figure potentially. I don't know if I'm necessarily a fan of this, but like I said, it is a perfectly fine figure. I mean, 2 stud referees, the original stud referee. If you throw in that Kane figure that I have, where they utilize a Big John stud figure, with the stud pieces that I have, put them all side by side, that is a killer lineup of stud or stud-like figures. Throw in the boots, dynamite. Where am I going to put this? Put this right over here. Volume 2 Ultimate Warrior. Oh man, this matchup is so hard. At first glance, I kind of felt like this might potentially be the first time I ever look at a Big John stud figure and be like, hey, Big John Stud could potentially lose this matchup. Strike that comment. Big John Stud obviously has lost in my last 2 tournaments, but he lost. Original figure lost in the semifinals in those matchups, or the finals. But this early in the tournament, never. And again, we're talking original figure. Custom. This is the first time we've seen customs. But kind of looking at that figure now and kind of comparing him to the Ultimate Warrior, now I'm not so sure. I still classify, and I think I will always classify the Volume 2 Ultimate Warrior among Random Treasure's top 4 figures. I'm looking at the shelf directly in front of me. I will probably always say Zeus is number 1. I don't think that will ever change. I think it'll always be extremely difficult for Random Treasures to come out with a better figure than Zeus. I just don't see how that's possible. I mean, if Dusty Rhodes cannot be a better figure than Zeus, I just don't see how there's the possibility of a better one. So, Zeus and Dusty Rhodes coming in at top 2 slots. Maybe Ultimate Warrior can fill in the top 5 somewhere. Where maybe number 4. Maybe I still put him in like number 4, fourth best figure. Number 3, I don't know. Maybe Demolition. Maybe I put Crush at number 3 nowadays, possibly. I still enjoy the head, even though I think the head is still a little bit small, even with this particular figure. That is still something that kind of stands out to me. But I've always loved the real tassels. Could they have been built on? Maybe, but it doesn't hinder the figure not one bit. Paint job, the boots. I mean, this has always been a damn near perfect figure. Is the rubber incredible? I've always enjoyed the rubber. I mean, I've never had a problem with the rubber. Is it very LJN-esque? A little bit. Not ideal, not 100% connected to the original line. You could definitely touch the rubber and tell the difference between a Random Treasures rubber figure compared to original line. So you will always be able to feel the rubber of a big rubber guy figure, a Random Treasures figure, or an original LJN, and know the difference between, because they all use different rubber. But oh man, I really thought Ultimate Warrior had the leg up on this one, but I'm looking at the 2 figures and I'm not sure. I think because of the work that actually went into this, and they did a really fantastic job. Now I'm focusing on the hand. Now the hand is staring me in the eye. I don't know. Now, am I really... I was about to say Big John Studd, but now I'm looking at that, and I'm like, am I really gonna change my answer just because of some molding with the smushing of the hand right there? You know what? It's crazy. But I made crazier answers in this series so far in this tournament. So I think that little divot right there in the hand actually altered my opinion of this figure just enough to alter my answer. Wow. That little imperfection was just enough to eliminate Big John Studd. Big John Studd has never been eliminated this early in the tournament before. Again, he's a custom figure. We're not looking at the original, but it's just uncanny to see a stud figure gone this early. Round 4, any Ultimate Warrior figure in round 4 is a deserving run. So, Ultimate Warrior Volume 2 moves on to the next round. This one. You know what? I honestly think that these last two videos, the last video I made, I think, was probably one of the toughest videos I've ever made. And this video, looking at these matchups, might be very comparable, because they're, forget semifinals, every matchup kind of feels like the finals. Like, look at these matchups. How do you compare Mr. T, Jim Knight? Of course, stop moving. My tags keep flying everywhere. All right, Mr. T and I gotta stop talking, because every time I talk right here, these tags go flying. Versus Jim Neidhart. We'll start with the Jim Neidhart figure. So, Mike, he does adequate work, right? I've bought a few of his figures, and not my favorite customizer in the world. I used to enjoy his YouTube channel when I used to watch it. I haven't watched it in a long time, and I saw this figure on his YouTube channel. I'm like, man, I love that figure. I want that figure. And then one day, I came across his eBay. I'm like, oh man, unbelievable! I get the opportunity to buy his figures. I came across this piece. I was so excited. I didn't want to pay $100 for the figure, though. I love the figure, but at the end of the day, it's just a junkyard dog, right? So I didn't think it was worth it. I mean, it wasn't just this. I mean, I had to buy that really crummy Owen Hart, and I might be insulting the man's work, but the Owen Hart was horrible. I'm sorry, Mike, but that figure was, from the waist down, it was spectacular. Waist up, one of the worst I've ever seen. I'm calling it like it is. Sorry. I'm the consumer after all, and I got to be happy with my purchase, right? And I didn't buy it for the Owen Hart. I bought it for this. Owen Hart, one of the worst figures I've ever seen. Jim Neidhart, one of the best figures I've ever seen. So, Mike, you definitely get huge props with this figure, absolutely. I wanted this figure so bad. It was such a killer piece. And Junkyard Dog definitely had the body type for Jim Neidhart. I love the original LJN. That is a top 10 figure for me. Junkyard Dog, I mean, he's a top 20 piece, play pose wise. But the grip of the figure to me was always very awkward. So I never really enjoyed the grip and the, you know, of the holding the figure and whatnot. But it was still, hand positioning was still a very workable and solid piece all around. And then you got the whole Rocket look, you know, when, you know, his teaming up as the new Hart Foundation, or the new foundation with Owen. Look was solid. Look was spectacular. Gives it a whole Series 5 Jim Neidhart from Hasbro. I wanted it. And here he is in round 3, going up against an absolutely electric competitor, vying for the ability to make it into round 4. He could do it. Going up against one of the guys I classify as my 10, he could make it into round 4. And dang it, if he makes it into round 4, he might as well be a shoo-in for round 5, because if he beats Mr. T, I mean, you're talking about one of the best figures of the entire collection. And at that point, if he beats Mr. T, you might as well punch his ticket to round 5. This is an absolute killer piece. I was never really a big fan of Jim Neidhart. Now, I remember very very little of him from childhood, obviously, so I don't have the best recollection of him. But like, I don't really remember him being the most technical wrestler and whatnot. So like, maybe if I was old enough and I could actually watch him in the 80s, maybe I would have felt differently. But in the 90s, I don't really have the most fond memories of him. So when you kind of look at your Hasbros and your LJNs, right? And I think I'm looking at the collections, I'm looking at the different wrestlers that were released. I'm like, well, guys like Coco Beware and the Bushwhackers and Jim Neidhart. I'm like, there's certain characters you watched, you grew up watching. I'm like, but really none of them really are like superstars. Greg Valentine was another one of those guys. He may have been a major superstar in the 80s, but Brutus Beefcake. I like Beefcake, but to me, he was just a guy that was more like the barbershop. But like, I never really saw him as like a wrestler a whole lot uh, in the 90s, that is. So, but like fans who actually watched them in the 80s, yeah, I'm pretty sure they were like awesome. So maybe I saw them at a point where they weren't obviously at their best. But this is a killer figure. I like this one a lot. This is a highlight piece of my collection. The Random Treasures Mr. T. I don't know how they came across deciding that Mr. T was necessary for the collection, but my God, this was a perfect addition. Now, really, they could have came out with any character and put it in this body mold, and it would have been a perfect addition. You could have clicked a picture of me, put my body on this figure. It would have been a perfect addition, man. Actually, that'd be freaking awesome. Hey, anybody want to make a Waddy channel, take a picture of me and want to create a mold of me, that'd be awesome, because I would love that. Mr. T along with Hogan for WrestleMania 1. Perfect. Right? Now, I actually have from the Raider Nation a series, Mr. T with this exact look, right? But it came with it Tito Santana fighting figure. So the aesthetics of it was incredible, but the fact that it was a Tito Santana body, that hurt the figure a lot. But you throw him in this Galoob 2-up of Butch Reed. Basically a perfect figure, right? And awesome look, perfect accessory, amazing. I'm looking at the colors and that really pop. I'm looking at the detail, and I'm like, man, this is an absolutely flawless figure. I hate this matchup because you're losing a spectacular figure. And I'm like, which one is really more enjoyable? I gotta go with Mr. T, right? Mr. T, he is, after all, I think the more flawless figure. All right, next up on the docket, we've got Junkyard Dog going up against Brian Pillman. Now, in the past, I think I've had Junkyard Dog make it as far as like round 2. I don't think I've ever seen Junkyard Dog actually make it past round 2. Yeah, I mean, because it was always based on the way the figures were situated on the shelf, and I don't know. I mean, based on the way they were situated, I mean, maybe he would have gone up against someone like Hogan, maybe. Greg Valentine, I don't know. Andre number 2, I think he would have been like a second round elimination. I don't think he ever would have made it past round 2. I'm guessing. Like, I don't ever remember him having very long runs in the tournament. And with the right competition, he could have made it into round 4. Going against Brian Pillman, I don't think he's going to make it past round 3. Is Brian Pillman a better figure than Junkyard Dog? I mean, Junkyard Dog definitely has a more enjoyable, playful fighting pose, most definitely. But here's the thing, Brian Pillman. Now, when you look at like the Bengals shorts, right? Brian Pillman is a Galoob figure that I actually had from childhood. Now, when I look at the Sting figure, the Galoob Sting, I don't like the Sting figure. The same way I don't like the Macho Man LJN. You know, the Macho Man LJN or the Sting from Galoob, I don't like those poses. Those poses are terrible. Yet, basically, the quintessential is the same figure, right? They still got basically the same hands up type of deal, except your opening hands. And where they're straight up, you know, he's kind of crouched over. Because I had this figure as a kid, and Brian Pillman got a lot of play from childhood, and even though he had open hands, I enjoyed the hell out of the Brian Pillman figure. I thought it was a fantastic playable figure, and I still enjoy the aesthetics of Brian Pillman a whole lot more than Sting. So, and when Ram Treasures, when they released their Galoob 2-ups, I had to go with the Series 2 design because I just think it's just more valuable. And I think most people are going to go with the Series 1 color scheme anyways. So, like, if anybody's ever selling these figures on eBay one day or something, and I get the opportunity to pick one up for a more affordable price, I'm more likely to find a Bengal shorts than a blue shorts, right? So it was definitely better for me to get the color scheme, the Series 2 color scheme. So, Brian Pillman is just an awesome figure. I enjoyed his figure a lot. I had a feeling that Brian Pillman was going to do really well in this tournament. At least I was hoping he was going to do well. To me, this is a very easy answer for me. Brian Pillman all day. I'm not even going to go back and forth on this. This was a very easy selection. When I first looked at them, I knew Brian Pillman was going to win. Holding them up, looking at them, not even a question. There are just certain matchups, you know right off the bat who's going to win. And this is, like I said, it's just one of those matchups. Now, one of the toughest matchups. Man, they're all tough matchups, but Ultimate Warrior versus Crush. We'll start with Ultimate Warrior. So, think about this. First LJN tournament I ever made. The second round. Well, let's backtrack. First tournament, I used to have all of the same characters sit side by side, right? So I would have original Ultimate Warrior, and then I would have all Ultimate Warrior customs. Well, the only Ultimate Warrior custom I had was this one. But I would have original Ultimate Warrior, and then I would have this custom right next to it. So it didn't matter if the custom figure was the exact custom of that figure. Like nowadays, because like when I did the second tournament, it would be original Ultimate Warrior squaring off against the custom figures that had that exact same body type. Whereas, because this was a different figure, different body type, he would have been his own figure. But in the first tournament, it wasn't about different body types, it was about character. So, series or first round, this Ultimate Warrior squared off against original Ultimate Warrior and won. And because it was based on the way that the figures were situated on the shelf, guess who he squared off against in the second round? Big Boss Man. Guess who won that matchup? I have coveted this figure for so long. This was a semifinalist in my first tournament. But he was a round 3 elimination in my second tournament. We are in round 3. And he is going up against an unbelievable character in the Random Treasures Crush. And I said that this could potentially be the number 3 best Random Treasures figure. Now, the pose isn't the most perfect. If this was more Hulk Hogan-ish, I think this would be the quintessential perfect figure and could actually be hand in hand right next to Dusty Rhodes. Hell, if this had the Hulk Hogan pose, this actually would probably be right next to Zeus and might actually challenge Zeus for the best figure. But I would probably say maybe number 3 or somewhere in the top 10, most definitely. Crush is definitely one of those characters. When I started collecting LJNs, when I started collecting custom LJNs, he is one of those characters that I absolutely wanted as part of the roster, no doubt. And getting guys like the Rockers was so important. Getting Crush was absolutely a must-have. So, third round, first tournament, a nice run. But for one of the best figures from one of my favorite customizers, I feel like a third round run for this particular figure is a poor run. No. A figure like this deserves to have a 4th or even a 5th round run to have a nice or to have a solid run. If it's a 3rd round run or less, I think it'd be a very poor push. One of the reasons I always coveted this particular figure, it was always a 2-in-1 piece for me. Yes, it's Ultimate Warrior. But he's also Hulk Hogan, right? Hulk Hogan Series 1, one of the best, most enjoyable play poses ever. It's a perfect play pose. But the red and yellow is a very simple color scheme. So you take one of the best play poses ever, you combine him with the Ultimate Warrior. Awesome paint scheme. Give this amazing hairdo, right? Give him these amazing boots. Give him all this flashy color and detail. Suddenly, you create one of the most impeccable wrestling figures ever made. I covered this figure back in round 1 in the first tournament over Big Boss Man, even though Boss Man had the bulkiness and the play pose and the name recognition and all of that I coveted. Because he basically had all of the same stuff, right? He had the name and the flashiness and all that. Does he win this tournament? Does he defeat Bruiser Brody if it comes to a final match between the two? I thought he could win this tournament the first time around. Hell, I thought he could win this tournament the second time around. In fact, if he did lose, when he lost in that 3rd round, I think I don't remember who he lost to. If I had to guess, I think he lost to Bruiser Brody. So, I've said before, Bruiser Brody has lost a lot of points with me for reasons I've talked about before. But because Bruiser Brody lost points for those particular reasons, this figure, because of who I bought it from, I could say the exact same thing. Basically, any of those figures from this particular buyer or this particular seller, I could say the same exact thing. So I still covet this figure, and I really wish that because I commissioned him to make me another very similar figure. I really wish he came through and made me another one because I really wanted it, but that never happened, obviously. I'm waiting on Kona Crush and Evil Crush and maybe even Jailhouse Crush. Why not? I think those are going to be amazing additions to the collection. And yes, I do think that Ram Treasures will come through and have those figures eventually. But we're probably going to be looking at maybe a couple years down the line before those figures get made. But I think they'll be on it. Oh, damn, this is tough. This is a real figure, man. This is a real custom. I am still going with the Ultimate Warrior. Alright, so like I said, this is a real custom. I mean, this is its own figure. You're not oh, excuse me. You're not I think I got one more in me. Maybe not. Alright, I probably got one more in me, but I'll keep talking until it comes. You got a real custom there, but for all the reasons I discussed earlier, this figure still means a whole lot to me, so I still want this figure to go very far. He didn't quite make it to my top 10 list. I thought he would have, but I still think that this is one of my favorite figures ever. So seeing this figure make it to round 4, it's a nice run, and I'm looking forward to him to at least go to round 5, hopefully. But we shall see what happens. With that being said, guys, that does close out round 3, part 7. And so 3 more videos to finish round 3. We're looking at 5 videos for round 4. 2, maybe 3 videos for round 5. And round 6... Round 6, I'll probably get done in one video. Round 7, I'll definitely get down. Round 6, I'll get done one video. Round 7, I'll get done one video. So, alright guys, that's it for now. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care everybody.